Curse of Oak Island compared to Groundhog Day. The Curse of Oak Island is in its 12th season. The team has been airing episodes as they search for the mythical treasure since January 2014. That means the show has now been on for 11 years, and they have still not found anything yet other than wood and some trinkets. With them now excited about the caissons, many fans have just made a comparison for the show. Here is what fans are now comparing the show to the hit movie Groundhog Day. Fans say Curse of Oak Island is just like Groundhog Day. When the Curse of Oak Island started 11 years ago, the core cast included Rick, Marty, and Alex Legina, Dan and Dave Blankenship, Craig Tester, Jack Begley, Dan Henske, Charles Barkhouse, and Peter Fornetti. Today, Rick and Marty are still the driving forces behind exploring Oak Island. Over the years, most of those names left the team, called the Fellowship. However, Rick and Marty remain convinced there is treasure hidden somewhere they haven't gotten to in the last 11 years. They think there might be hidden vaults far underground in the Money Pit area. They recently started using high-tech equipment that was not available just a few years ago. However, many fans are getting tired of false promises and storylines that repeat constantly. When the Fellowship got excited about caissons coming in, one Redditor said it was like they never had them before. They're acting like it's the second coming of the dig, they wrote. This got many fans to start mocking the repetitive nature of the show. It's Groundhog Island. They drained the swamp how many times? They've gone looking for the flood tunnels how many times? People forget, and after a few seasons it's all new again. But this time, it'll be different. True insanity. Memory loss is a real plus for people watching this cluster. The joke is that Groundhog Day was a movie starring Bill Murray, where his character had to keep repeating the same day repeatedly. Only he knew about the time loop. Everyone else acted like it was all new again. Curse of Oak Island fans worried about Rick Legina. Rick Legina is the driving force behind the Curse of Oak Island. He wrote an article about Oak Island in a 1965 issue of Reader's Digest and got his brother Marty interested in the island. Rick is a retired postal worker who has spent most of his money and time trying to find the treasure after he and Marty purchased most of the island. If you've ever watched The Curse of Oak Island and felt an eerie sense of déjà vu, you're not alone. In many ways, the long-running treasure hunting series feels like it was lifted straight out of the classic 1993 film Groundhog Day. Both feature determined men trapped in an endless cycle of hope, disappointment, and repetition. While Bill Murray's Phil Connors relives February 2nd over and over, Rick and Marty Legina, along with their team, appear to be caught in a perpetual loop of digging, theorizing, and hitting the same brick walls, often literally, year after year. The repetitive cycle, treasure versus time loops. At the heart of Groundhog Day is a man forced to repeat the same day ad infinitum, unable to move forward no matter what he does. Sound familiar? The Oak Island team might not be waking up to Sonny and Cher's "I Got You Babe" every morning, but they do wake up to another day of drilling, sonar scans, and yet another new expert with a fresh theory that eerily resembles last season's theories. Phil Connors tries everything to break his cycle. He embraces hedonism, tries to end it all, and eventually pursues self-improvement. Likewise, the Oak Island team cycles through different approaches. From massive excavation digs to the latest high-tech equipment, hoping that this will finally be the season where they crack the case. And yet, just like Phil, they end up right back where they started, with more questions than answers. The eternal optimism of the doomed. One of the defining traits of both Groundhog Day and The Curse of Oak Island is relentless optimism in the face of never-ending repetition. Phil initially despairs at his predicament, But he soon realizes that every repeated day is a chance to improve. The Legina brothers, despite finding little more than scraps of wood, metal fragments, and the occasional mysterious artifact, remain steadfast in their belief that the treasure is just one more dig away. Every season of The Curse of Oak Island presents a new, game-changing discovery. A piece of parchment, a coin from the 1600s, or a tunnel that could, but likely won't, lead to the elusive money pit. And yet, no matter how many episodes pass, the true treasure remains tantalizingly out of reach, just like Phil's attempt to move on to February 3rd. The side characters who keep the story moving. Both Groundhog Day and The Curse of Oak Island thrive on a cast of colorful side characters. In Groundhog Day, we have Ned Ryerson, the Overreager insurance salesman, and the residents of Punxsutawney, who remain oblivious to Phil's predicament. In The Curse of Oak Island, we get a rotating door of historians, geologists, and theorists who each bring their own interpretation of the mystery, whether it's Knights Templar, pirates, or even Shakespeare himself. The Oak Island experts, much like the townspeople in Groundhog Day, rarely acknowledge the repetitiveness of it all. Each new expert arrives with enthusiasm, convinced that this time they have the breakthrough theory. They don't seem to notice that similar ideas have been presented before, often multiple times in earlier seasons. This perpetual cycle of rediscovery only adds to the déjà vu effect. The search for meaning. What makes Groundhog Day such a compelling film is that it's not really about escaping the time loop. It's about personal growth. Phil Connors evolves from a selfish, cynical man into someone who genuinely cares for others. His true reward isn't simply breaking the cycle, but becoming a better person in the process. Likewise, the treasure hunt on The Curse of Oak Island has, over time, transformed from a quest for gold to something more profound. The Laginas and their team are no longer just searching for material riches. They are uncovering history. Even if the legendary treasure never materializes, the island's centuries-old secrets are being pieced together bit by bit. Much like Phil's journey, perhaps the real reward is not in the destination, but in the experience itself. Will they ever escape the loop? The biggest question for both Groundhog Day and The Curse of Oak Island is, will it ever end? Phil eventually earns his way out by embracing change and selflessness. But for Oak Island, the loop seems destined to continue for as long as viewers keep tuning in. As long as there's another relic to unearth, another scanning technique to try, and another theory to explore, the Laginas will keep digging. And perhaps that's the real secret of Oak Island. It's not about finding treasure, it's about the endless pursuit itself. Just as Groundhog Day keeps us watching to see if Phil will ever escape his time loop, The Curse of Oak Island keeps us coming back, season after season, to see if they'll finally hit pay dirt. Until that day comes, one thing is certain. Much like Phil waking up to his alarm clock, Oak Island fans will keep hearing. We've made a huge discovery that could change everything, only to find themselves right back where they started, waiting for the next dig.